All right, so Craig,
Hi, Joyce.
welcome. You're now with 575, and you've been a visitor before,
Yeah,
and you are in you're in a coffee shop, a brew pub, and
a
a
restaurant
bookstore, a
and
restaurant
a
and a
bookstore.
bookstore, because you're spending this evening fundraising.
I'm doing two things I love. One is talking to you and to librarians everywhere, but I'm out here in Seattle, Washington. My school, as you know, is a Title I school, 80% free and reduced lunch, and we're trying to raise money by going to the public. So the bookstore and the restaurant said they'll give us 20% of whatever comes through the till if people say, "Hey, I like that school." And so I've sort of got myself parked here, and I occasionally look over to the door because people are coming in and we want them to enjoy themselves. But it's classic things I love, right?
Absolutely. So, sometimes the pie, isn't big enough,
Right.
and you need to actually kind of either bake another pie or just find some way to support
That's
the
right.
kids. And
Yeah.
you were saying earlier that it's possible that the money that came out of this is going to allow you to give each child who comes into your book fair a book for free.
Right. There's so many kids who will come in with 35 pennies and say, "Can I get a book?" And so we'll give every kid a bookmark that says, the community cares that you come away with a book. And then families that can buy books in the book fair will jump right in and buy more. And some of that profit will go directly to what we're giving away. And maybe there'll be a benefit to the school, but there will absolutely be a way for the PTA to contribute to the literacy of every child. And that's the goal of all our partners. Certainly Scholastic does everything they can. These kids at our school, kindergarten through second grade, come spring, they get 12 free books from Page Ahead is a program that partners with Scholastic. And so these youngsters, for summer reading, they have their own book bags. They do a special book fair where the kids don't pay a penny. And the PTA and a little bit of extra funding gets 12 books going home for summer reading. And so here in the fall, we wanted to run a book fair, but the equity flag is a real one to rally on.
Maybe that's a really good topic for tonight for a brief time. And, I think that in New Jersey, we're faced with similar issues, and possibly it's similar to Washington State in terms of the differences. You see great wealth, and you also see great poverty. You see immigrant populations of in large urban areas where there's not the kind of distribution that we would see, and you have things like the Real Housewives of New Jersey kinds of situations, and Donald Trump's golf courses in New Jersey, of course, and so you've got all of this kind of very disparate lifestyles, and school districts that have all the funding in the world and school districts with nothing. And it's not just urban versus suburban, but there's also rural districts with very little. So we've been talking about options for creating some kind of equity. But what are your tricks? So you've got tonight, which sounds like a very big fundraiser, but how do you deal on a daily basis? What are some of the things you do?
Well, I certainly
Well, I
just
certainly
plain.
just plain.
I've got an echo from somebody
I've
here.
got an echo from somebody here.
I'm going to mute because it may be me.
Okay. Yeah. Um, on a daily basis, I have books that I can give away. People donate, they clear out their bookshelves and have used books. So every day I'm giving away books. And it's just sort of a place where parents pass through, and some families, you see them shoveling books to go home. And that's wonderful. I've had students who were homeless, and when winter strikes in Seattle, they they should only take home books that can get wet. And so having books available helps bridge that in sort of a no loss situation. I partner. You have a student. Hi, Amy. I was also starting this week a partnership with Seattle Public Libraries. They use a Raise a Reader program, which is a national program, preschool and kindergarten. So we were sending home waterproof bags of 3 public library books to all of our kindergartners, again, as a way to bridge. And these are facilities, I don't have that many books to send out to kindergarteners as they learn to return books, and so the public library partners with it. So that's, there's lots of ways to partner, but those are a couple that I'm using this week.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's really important to know that. And honestly, as I was reading the students in this class, and Amy's actually in my other class, and I encourage her to participate. Amy, this is Craig from Washington State. He's an elementary librarian. And we were talking about equity and ways to provide books for children who have no books at home or have situations where literacy is a bigger issue than it is. And we were talking about the similarities in Washington State and New Jersey in terms of equity and my family's just walking in, so I'm sorry.
My husband just walked by too.
I've got a story from the school I was at up until November last year. On the same street, on a 25-block cross-section of a part of Seattle, I was in a school with about 80% free and reduced lunch. The PTA would raise almost $6,000 a year total. 20 blocks away on the same street, a school raised $76,000 one weekend when they heard a teacher's position would be cut. So on the very same street, in the very same section, and unfortunately district-wise with the same funding for librarian positions, which was half-time. But at my partner school, the PTA backfilled the position, the PTA provided a budget, and to their credit, that school made an effort to reach out and do things to other schools. But that was right, 20 blocks, right on the same street. And inequities like that are rife. Right now, to get one free book to each kid, I'm reaching out to more affluent partner schools around the city who speak up and want to do equity. And I'm saying, give me your Scholastic bucks so that I can use them for my kids. And there's just, it has to be a constant conversation. At the school board meetings, I'm talking next week about, we need more laptop cards in our high poverty schools because it's an equity issue and the district's committed to equity education, but they've got to put resources on an equity basis and not on an equal basis.
You're doing such important work, Craig. I don't know that people outside of our world see the kind of work that folks like you are doing. When it was I think one of the most important professional awakenings I had, I don't know if you read this blog post I wrote a whole bunch of years ago, was when we invited kids from the city of Philadelphia whose PTA wanted to build them a library because they didn't really have a library, came to visit us at Springfield. And it was a half a mile away, just like you're saying. And it wasn't just the library. The kids walked in and they saw a school where there was peace. And they walked into a cafeteria where the food was really good and there was actual salads and stuff. And then we started showing, and these were the honors kids at that high school. And we started showing them the things that the state had purchased for us, not even just the stuff that we were purchasing for these kids with our own budget. But they said to us, you mean, and this was the senior class president, he said, and he was a literature kid. He said, you mean this literature criticism stuff was available to me in that ebook collection that the state bought and no one told us? And I didn't even know how to respond to that because the answer, of course, was yes. For the 4 years you were at that high school and for the 12 years you were in the Philadelphia school district, you had access to all of these resources. But because there was no librarian to point to this stuff, you had no access.
That's right. That's right. That the librarian
and you had every right. You had every right to access this. And it was such a waste. And our whole school district of Philadelphia has no librarians.
Yeah.
And so across the border in Montgomery County and Bucks County, all of these kids have everything. And it doesn't make sense. And then the other thing I'm thinking about, I was speaking to a bunch of people about book club the other day, and the kids with no money come and bring that 35 cents that you mentioned. And the book clubs provide things that they can buy in the form of tchotchkes. And, we don't want the kids coming out of a book fair with a tchotchke.
Yeah, no tchotchkes. No,
No
a bookmark, but no books. Yeah. Yeah, so where's that? It's really something. And, a neighbor school in the district, a parent, PTA made sure that every kid had an iPad in the school. And it's wonderful, and the district can say, oh, terrific. We're experimenting with one-to-one. Well, that's in the school that they've got one at home as well. It's just piling on. And the staffing of librarians is such an equity opportunity that that's why I go to the school board meetings and I go to the state legislature, and to restore full funding as really on that equity issue is such a big deal. And
So, Craig, in terms of technology, are you Michelle Obama's program? Was it called First Book?
right, First Book.
Right. Do you use that in your school?
We've been trying to get it up and running and integrated with Clever, and we hit a couple of bumps. But last spring I was working with my instructional technologist to get that, and so this year that was a goal. And I admit that we haven't skinned that cat, but we're closer, because that was the intention of that program.
Right.
But then it's devices, then it's Wi-Fi at home,
Right.
or learning to download. So, last spring, Mike Eisenberg came in with a couple of old devices he had and gave them to a family, and this boy was thrilled. And in the fall, the little brother came in and said, well, where's my laptop? But it's very much, how do we get devices and content, and how do we have instructional bandwidth to teach the kids how to use it, and to make sure it happens. It's very much my sort of active teaching agenda, to make sure the kids know it's there. During parent conferences this week, I was just in the library, which is right where all people pass through in our school. I was just trying to get onto the parent's phone, say, look at Libby. It's a new overdrive. It's a public library access point that's just much easier for all my families. In my school, we've got terrific, 15 language diversity. And so just getting English language materials onto a parent's phone or device is an equity success story as much as we do it. And it's a big goal.
Yeah, I think that this stuff is the most important stuff we do. If we can connect, if we can develop readers. So I wasn't so worried about my service to my AP children, completely honestly. They would take care of themselves. But I recognized in the morning, one of the things I always did at the high school was I always bought 2 breakfasts. And I would leave one of my breakfasts in the room, and I would just walk away, and there was a faculty room, like the kitchen area. That breakfast was gone in a few minutes. And I always would leave food out there. There were children, teenagers I didn't realize were hungry, who had no breakfast, that just came in and ate in the library before they went on to school. Some of them were too embarrassed to go down and get that breakfast that was provided in the cafeteria.
Right.
And so
our traffic pattern at school has every child enter the school through the lunchroom. Every child gets a free lunch, thanks to a United Way partnership. Instead of asking kids, do you want one, just say, pick it up, take it in the classroom, and munch while the teacher's doing attendance in that first 10 minutes. And it's been a wonderful thing.
The chills. You shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody gets fed, and summer programs in the library. I think it's a big opportunity for school libraries to help keep the school buildings open, because those summer feeding programs are essential to our families. But
And
working a little.
public libraries are also involved in that effort.
Yeah, they sure are. They
Yeah.
sure are, and that's the partnership that we just want to make that link absolutely crystal clear. You know, you talk about partnerships, right? Before I came here, I was waiting. My public librarian was coming by. Next week, we're taking all the first grades at Seattle Public to that great cathedral
Love that.
downtown. Yeah, it's a beauty, and because we wanted to get them all down there, we filled in about 40 new card applications for the students, and we're going to walk them through and have sack lunch down there and get a little program. It's all every piece. Everybody wants to serve this, but we've really got to hold people to it because it's their intention. And these kids deserve every opportunity that is available through school and public libraries.
Absolutely. Amy, feel free to join in at any point. Amy was with us at NJSL this past week, and she's been a regular visitor. Craig is an elementary librarian, as I mentioned. He's interested in equity, but we're also talking about evaluation this week, and we're talking about communication and presentation. And he and I have presented together. Do you have any questions?
You kind of caught me off guard because I thought we were talking about the new standards.
Oh, we can talk about the standards too.
No,
we were all in. Where were we? Phoenix. We were all in Phoenix together.
That's what you said in the email. No, I was in DC with my kids before we moved here to New Jersey, and we were in also a Title I school district in Ward 8. I don't know how familiar you are with DC. So yeah, they had. I don't know if it was a DC standard or if it's a federal standard, but if a certain percentage of the school meets free and reduced, then the entire school gets. And so they had free breakfast and free lunch. And it was very interesting to me because what I found in that school was they actually had more technology through grants than other schools that were in perhaps more affluent areas. So it's interesting to me to see that perspective that, why was the Title I school that I was in, how did they get those grants? Where did that kind of funding come from? Who led that? And I was kind of thinking about that while you guys were talking, and I'm not sure if it was the principal or I know the librarian was involved with, I think it was the Redskins Charitable Foundation came and remade the library. They painted it and put in like a stage and bought a bunch of books. And we actually had a whole room that some companies would donate books. And then so every Christmas they would give away like 2 or 3 books. And so it was like a whole project that the volunteers did. We had to sort the books for like, boys, well, not boys or girls, but like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and wrap them. And so it was a big PTA project. But do you think is it because we were in DC, or is there opportunities like that in other areas that librarians maybe just need to kind of be aware to seek out?
I certainly think it's the latter. I think there are some places where opportunities don't exist, and librarians shouldn't beat themselves up if they look. But for example, last month, I had an opportunity, and some authors were coming to town to talk about a social justice topic. It was the Fred Karamatsu story about Japanese incarceration in World War II. So I reached across the street to the Chinese American church, and they gave the speaker fee because they're happy to partner. And then I reached out to Antioch University to their teacher prep program, and they brought their graduate students over for an evening event so that our families and our students got both. And so there's no question that an active reaching out finds things. And I have colleagues in the district who have a lower free and reduced percentage and they're not eligible for all of the compensatory funding thresholds, but they have these backfill PTA things that help. And so we try to share it. We try to share around. I've done things in like We have a speaker coming in, Charles Waters. Did you get to meet him, Joyce? Yes, well, he's a poet who, with Irene Latham, is releasing "Can I Touch Your Hair?" It's poems, two voices, white and black, across racial mistakes and friendship and issues. So he's coming out, and again, a partner. Antioch University is finding affluent schools to pay Charles's fees while they grant school visits to a couple of title programs. But then I'm reaching for other funding to do extension programs. So yes, you have to hustle way too much, but the opportunities are there. United Way, Kiwanis, you just people want to serve kids.
They do, but they don't know how. And so the thing about librarians is that, the word connector seems to be the big one for me. I don't know why, but this morning it came up. Oh, somebody from, one of the things I was doing at the conference floor in Phoenix was I was like kind of matchmaking. I found this developer who needed funding, and I was like pulling these people together. And that's a very natural thing for me, finding these people who need each other, but they don't know what their missing piece is. And so I connected them, and this guy Ian wrote to me and he said, "Oh my goodness, how did you make that happen?" And I said, "Don't you know that librarians are connectors?" And that's the thing. And you know the movers and shakers in your own communities, as Craig is demonstrating right now. And honestly, there are people who want to make things happen, and they don't know how to do it. And so you can give them the opportunity, and it could be like we in our community, the arts movie theater wanted to help kids, and so they didn't have any problem with closing the theater on Wednesday nights and opening it to a film that was the One Book, One School film that we wanted to do. And so the parents and the students came, they made the money they wanted to make. We made the announcements on the ads instead of the ads for the next film. We advertised things the football students were doing and everything else. And students were reading poetry. I remember we had the Gregory Peck To Kill a Mockingbird, and we had a film discussion in the movie theater afterwards. But the movie theater wanted to help us. They just didn't know it. and so we engaged them as partners. But and that's the whole thing. Everything in your community is right. Sometimes you just have to do the ask. And in our class, Amy, you're not in that class yet, but sometimes it's about the ask. And I don't think the ask is a devious kind of thing. It's just being brave enough to put it out there and shake some hands that you may not have shaked before. Shook and shaked.
No, it's really too. A couple thoughts there, Joyce. I so admire Dave Lankis's formulation that the community is the collection, and my library is these people that I know. Some of them live in books, some of them walk in the door, some of them are in the community. And so I'm always trying to connect the right parts of the community. That's the asset that we have. And some of them are the authors who create some of these materials, and some of them are the foundations that want to serve. You were telling a story about the movie theater. The Northwest Literacy Foundation has just made me busy as a bee. This past week, I processed $2,500 worth of books. I'd rather buy them processed, but this Literacy Foundation did a fundraiser at a local brewery, gifted my school $3,500 worth of books at a bookstore. And so, yeah, I'll take the time to process books.
What is your book budget annually?
Oh, zero from the school. I get zero from the school, but I have about $10,000 in grants and friends happening. The PTA did a little raise the flag for me, the first time that ever happened. Northwest Literacy Foundation actually granted me $5,000. $1,500 of it will go to a literacy event following on Charles Waters' Can I Touch Your Hair? We'll have a songwriting book club come in and write music with the kids and do a recording in school. and a $3,500 book shopping spree. Then I also got $2,500 from another opportunity. And then, like I was saying earlier, there's groups that want to serve the kids. And so you just put it out there, you throw yourself in social media, you say thank you, and teach the kids to say thank you, because generosity, large and small, the library community in particular, and the education community, it's very easy to connect. I throw things up on Donors Choose, and there's techies in Seattle who see that and go, that's an easy check to write. I cold called the Allen Foundation, Paul Allen's family foundation. Did a lot with public libraries, didn't do anything with school libraries. But I said, well, let's do a collaboration in Seattle, and they were very generous. And so I think you just do the ask, because people want to do well, and libraries are the house of equity and the democratic institution that allows everybody from all political stripes to really contribute.
I love it. Look at the difference you're making. Yeah.
Actually, I have a quick question just for Craig. For the grants, do you go out looking for those, and do you write the grant paperwork for that, or how does that work in Washington?
Some of them I do, yeah. I keep my eyes open. Is there something, on those ALA grants pages that I could apply for? Sometimes, like the Northwest Literacy Foundation, they're super generous, and they say, do you mind filling out this 2-page application, because we're ready to give you money? And so I said, yeah, I can fill out paper. And then I've also launched a few, or found partners to launch a few. So it's by hook and by crook. But you look at the Follett website, you look at the Mackin website, everybody's got, how can I help you write grants? Seattle Public Library has a grants librarian. You go to the downtown library and you say, I need a grant. And they dig around like in any resource, and they help match you up. So you do some writing, but you've got school boilerplate already. You partner with who needs to partner. Is this a PTA grant, or is this a library grant? It's going to the kids. So I just, you have your target. I always say you shoot the arrow, draw the target. But with grant writing, you do have to see somebody else's target and then take your arrow and put it right in the middle.
And don't you find also that success begets success? So you have one successful grant, you have a prototype of a proposal, and you can edit it. And it's not as hard once you've done that first couple of grants. Yeah. So Amy, other questions? I don't want to put you on the spot. I can ask like a million questions, but not right now?
Not right now.
Okay. So Craig, what did you think of the new standards?
I'm excited by the new standards, and I haven't done as much unpacking as people who've been at Thicker. I just signed up for your webinar you're doing with Susan in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I came back from ASL telling people in my district, I want to unpack together. In our state association, I want us to be able to provide time for people to view and correlate. You were in there too when we were talking about aligning the future ready stuff with the ASL new standards, and it's all headed in the right place. And I really like the way that the graphics and the information is available for people to pick it up and run. I was able to go to our chief information officer in the Seattle district and say, here's this stuff. It's all ready to incorporate. We're about to hire a library director in Seattle.
Really great.
And that's, yeah. We got to talk about that later, Joyce, by the way. But
I have somebody I'd like to nominate.
Oh, good. I'd like you to write a letter for that person.
Okay.
And the joy of it is that they're saying take them and run with them, make them work for the priorities of your administrators and your school boards and your state needs. It isn't it isn't so locked in. It isn't a cookbook. It's a wonderful pantry of resources to draw from and purpose. So I look forward to reading more deeply, and I'm taking every opportunity to tell people what resources are there. Your blog post in SLJ this week was very helpful. It was all those things I've been trying to point people to on my page. So thank
Yeah,
you,
I
Scott,
think
for
that
that.
I really I worry because I think the website is like I don't think you can find there's a lot there, but it's
Yeah,
hard to discover the path
yeah,
of what's more important at this moment than what isn't.
yeah.
So yeah, okay. So let me think. Let me think. Amy, anything else that we should be asking at this moment? I want to respect Craig's time because I know he's at a fundraiser. Oh, he's eating pretzels and beer, I suspect.
How Pennsylvania do you have Philly?
That is true. Anything else, Amy? I think I might.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Joyce,
Yes, Craig?
I knew we were talking a little bit about presentations, and can
Oh,
I
that's
share my
right.
screen for just
Yes.
a minute?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. You did a glog.
I did a blog for a presentation I'm going to do in a couple
Oh, and
days.
that was
So
beautiful. Oh, silly.
yeah.
Not to
So here, am I now sharing my
almost.
blog?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So this, and is that full screen enough for you?
We
Or
can see
should
part
I?
of it. You might have to
There.
scroll for us to see the whole thing.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was going to say this is my library homepage. And see, I have different first grade, second grade, third grade resources.
Oh, neat.
But in next week's time, I'm going to talk to the Seattle Reading Council. So curating with Blogster gets kind of easy. And I built a blog for that presentation. And that's loading up here. But basically, I wanted to talk about the new standards. I wanted to show that librarians are working in a couple directions. There's a slow load here on public Wi-Fi. But I could build a slide deck, but all I really need is all of these linked up. Right there's the new standards up in the upper right, and there's our future ready. And here's some of the kinds of things. This was this book and author experience I did last spring. We got Shabaka Steptoe again through Antioch. And so it's a way for me to talk through what are things librarians do. Working with Paul Fleischman, you and I, you tipped us out, and we had a librarians community working with Paul when he released that book, which is, as important now as ever, right? It's all about critical literacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And one of the things I want to say is that this is like the work that you're doing here can be embedded anywhere. So you can throw this into your Destiny catalog and have it be your front page. And maybe not this particular page because this is a presentation, but the resources for the various different grade levels could be. And
right.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to curate, and I've just enjoyed the speed because if the teacher in my Mandarin program says, "Oh, I need this resource, a few clicks quicker," I can go in and edit my Mandarin page in a heartbeat and provide those resources for kids. So
that's beautiful. So you're using this as a presentation tool.
I'm also using it as a presentation. I can just talk through it.
Right.
And say, how do librarians as a whole, are you leveraging your librarian to serve you? Are they putting links in the catalog to serve your classes, your literacy work?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fabulous. I love it.
Yeah. And then you just archive all the old, these center area, these are all other other collected resources. I just keep handy.
I think one of the things that I did think was obvious to my teachers and students when we started introducing some of these tools was that because they're largely free, you can make as many of them as you want, and so the notion of daisy chaining them was not immediately apparent. So it's really possible that you could have just the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there, and each
Right.
of these could link to another blog. And so you don't need to put everything on one page. The index, the students wouldn't know that this is actually an index to 5 different blogs.
Right.
But you could kind of curate in that way, and it becomes a sophisticated network of whatever it is you're doing. But it's invisible to the student that it is that complicated, or not even that complicated. When my students were doing blogs or anything like this, it wasn't instinctive to them that they could leverage the platform in these various different ways. They would see, okay, I'm making one thing. But no, that's not true. The affordances of these platforms are that they link together. They can be networked.
Yeah, it's a joy. It's a joy.
And it's actually we're pushing the affordances of all of these platforms in different ways. And I see you have Pebble Go, and you have
district databases, state database on Native American education. This is a website that's built by all the tribes of Washington State, saying this is the way to do Native Ed in Washington. These are all their stories.
Wow.
It's a state actually now mandated curriculum, and somebody in the schools, every school needs to be using it. So I throw that there.
Well, we have somebody who's working on that very subject who lives in Connecticut, but I don't know that we have that kind of resource where she lives.
This is a brilliant one, this Indian Ed, because
show it to her.
It's vetted by all the tribes in the state.
Wow.
It's theirs. This is how we want you to teach about us, and it's a beautiful collection. Yeah. So
I don't think they have anything like that in the East.
No, it's something, and of course we have lots of tribes here in Washington. So good. Thanks for letting me share little bits of how I try to present.
You're welcome, Craig. I'm gonna let you go because I know you're very busy, and if Amy has any questions, I'll just stay on, and we have the other classes who might be joining us later. But feel free. I'm gonna stop the recording, and just feel free to enjoy your brew pub fundraiser. And we're really grateful that you joined us tonight, and I'll share the archive with the other students.
Share that blog, and down in the lower left, there's email contact and the Twitter feeds and all that.
Of course.
I'd love to follow up if anybody has questions.
Thank you. I will absolutely share your contact information.
Okay. Thanks, Joyce.
Generosity.
Thank you, Craig.
And Amy, it was a pleasure. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Good night.
We'll talk. Bye-bye.